Hey there, Cosmic Layla here with Wes Appenin. We have a special guest with us, the Star Hustler from the Miami Space Transit Planetarium. Take it away, Mr. Hustler.
Well, as I have always admonitioned, keep looking up. And speaking of looking up, I was looking up an interesting YouTuber, also from Miami, by the name of Traveling Robert. He's an RVer, and as you know, many RVers are out there watching the skies. Tonight, we're going to hear an interview with Traveling Robert and check out his views about possible space aliens and, of course, life as an RVer.
Sounds pretty cool. Let's tune in with Traveling Robert.
Hello?
Hi, Robert. This is Cosmic Layla with the CLCI webzine. Good afternoon, Arizona time.
Hi. Hi, good afternoon to you.
Yes. All right, here we go. You were born in Cuba. Can you tell us about your early life and how you became an American citizen?
Well, yeah, I was born in Cuba. I lived in Cuba until I was 16 years old. From there, we migrated to Spain. That was a year-long layover in Spain. Mm-hmm. And then we came to the United States.
Okay. It is known you used to be a DJ. What radio stations did you used to work at?
I never actually worked at any radio stations. I did a couple of nightclubs in Miami, and I did a lot of private parties, and I did a cruise ship as well. And this was all throughout the 90s, pretty much.
When did you first become interested in music, and what was your first instrument that you learned?
Well, I guess I was interested since a very young age. I probably don't remember. I know by the time I was 7, I started getting private piano lessons. Mm-hmm. And then in my early teens, I took guitar as well. And when I arrived here in the United States in the early 90s, I started playing with some of the local salsa bands, which was
cool.
The cool music. So we had a 10-piece band, and we played some nightclubs in the early 90s. And then I branched out a little more on my own, smaller groups, and did restaurants, hotels, and private parties as well.
Oh, that's pretty cool. I didn't know that you played the guitar as well. Do you play the guitar as well as you play as a piano, you think?
I'm more of a pianist than a guitar player. Mm-hmm. But I can press a few chords and the song.
Okay, cool. Do you remember Desi Arnaz, and does that kind of music have any influence on your music?
Well, of course, Desi Arnaz and classical. Not classical. That was a classic Cuban music, especially from the 50s and all that. It did have an impact in my music upbringing, mm-hmm. and as well as many other influences, of course. Okay, and who's your favorite Cuban musical artist? Well, I would have to say one of the classics, of course, Benny Moré. Benny Moré is spelled Benny More, the last name, and probably most of modern Cuban music comes from his style in the 1950s. He played with he played with Perez Prado, who invented the mambo, and then. His later music is very close to modern salsa, so yeah. Oh, that's very interesting. Okay, how did you become interested in traveling in an RV? Well, I was always interested in travel, but even though early in life we could not get out of Cuba, my parents, they took me up and down the island, to many places. Mm-hmm. And then I continued being interested in travel as I was here. Of course, you'd never have enough time to travel as much as you'd like. And then one day, my brother-in-law decided to rent an RV to take the family to Atlanta, where part of the family have moved to Atlanta. So we went there for Thanksgiving, and he rented that RV, and I'm like, this is a cool way to travel. And after that, my interest grew. I went to several RV shows. I rented an RV, and the rest is history. Okay, cool. Some Florida questions. How did it come about that you are based in Miami? Well, the thing is, a lot of Cubans migrate to Miami because a lot of Cubans were already in Miami. So in a city, I guess people gravitate to whatever is familiar, and I guess that's why we decided Miami would be the place, and we've been there for 30 plus years.
Fascinating. Okay, is the Florida coastline porous for drug trafficking, you think?
Probably not anymore. I mean, in the 1980s, of course, Miami was famous for being the drug capital of the world, and a lot of smuggling went on at the time. I mean, there's a saying that the foundation of Miami is made of cocaine, not cement. That's a common joke from the 1980s. I don't think it's as prevalent anymore.
Oh, I see. Well, do you think that back then more drugs were going through Miami or Orlando, you think?
Probably Miami. The thing is, it's a long coastline, so a lot of boats would come, and it was relatively easy to smuggle. It's a very large coastline down there with the Everglades, the Florida Keys. I would say that would have been the case.
All right. Have you encountered any anti-Cuban sentiment while in Florida?
Not necessarily. Not really. I mean, everywhere I've gone, people have been friendly to me for the most part. There's always one or two, but there's always someone.
That's good.
Maybe rude to you. Yeah, it hasn't been at all prevalent.
Yeah. Oh, that's good to hear. Okay. Have you ever tripped on LSD, mescaline, or peyote?
No, I have not.
No. Okay. Now, food and coffee questions. How did you get started drinking espresso, and do you think you have an addiction to it?
I definitely have an addiction to it. Now, espresso is prevalent. It's a staple in Cuban lifestyle. That's what you have for breakfast every morning: espresso with milk or espresso by itself. We call it Cuban coffee, but that's what it is. It is a sweet espresso.
Oh.
And I've been drinking it all my life, so yeah.
All right. What is your favorite brand of Cuban coffee espresso?
Probably Bustelo. These days, that's the one that I drink the most.
Okay. Do you ever take a hiatus from coffee, and do you have high blood pressure from your sodium-rich diet?
No, my blood pressure for someone of my age has been always perfect. And I have not taken a hiatus from coffee as far back as I can remember.
Okay, all right, that's good. That's also amazing. Some people don't have that much luck with it. They have a little bit trouble with the blood pressure with that. Do you consider yourself?
I guess I've been lucky. I've been lucky with my genes, I guess.
Yeah, I think it is a genetic thing, the blood pressure. Yeah, I heard that. So some people can take to certain substances and other people not so much. So it's true.
Yep.
Do you consider yourself a food critic?
No. I like to taste different types of food, and if I don't like it, I might be critical of it, but I don't consider myself an expert or a critic in that sense.
Right, like not an official, right? Just make a comment here and there.
Yeah.
Okay. IPA stands for India Pale Ale. Why do you like it so much?
Mm-hmm. I mean, to be honest, I like many types of beers, but India Pale Ale, I like the strong flavor and the hoppy flavor of it. Of course, I started with the regular pale ales, and that was, and before that, I was drinking Belgian Trappist ales, and eventually I gravitated towards India Pale Ale. I don't know if it was the first time I tasted it, and I liked it, and after that, it's a type of beer that I know 90% for sure that if I ask for it at a bar, I'm gonna like it. So that's why I drink it.
Oh, okay. All right. On to the wildlife questions. You seem to have a fondness for pelicans and bison over other wildlife. What's up with that?
Well, pelican was I like all kinds of wildlife. Pelican originally was a joke that I made in one of my early videos on YouTube, and I say it comes from the movie Scarface, and at some point Al Pacino says, "Fly, pelican, fly," looking at watching TV. And I said it on my video, and then everybody started saying it, and I kept saying it, and it became a thing. And I really love pelicans. They're very interesting birds, and they're very funny. they're very funny. If they are near somewhere where people are fishing or cleaning fish, you can. And then bison is just a rare animal for someone from the Caribbean to see. So whenever I'm out west, Montana, the Dakotas, and whatnot, it's to me it's a rare sight to see bison. So I enjoy that kind of wildlife a lot.
Yeah, I noticed that the bison they are a very interesting looking animal, and so are the pelicans. That's true. That's pelicans are kind of a callback to prehistoric, probably more animals too, probably, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's what they look like. Yeah.
All right. Have you met up with any bears, and if so, what do you think they think about
Bears. Well, I've been either lucky or unlucky to not have seen many bears in my travels. I did see probably a young bear. It looked like a large dog, and I saw him in Yosemite while we were climbing the Yosemite Falls trail. And the bear was just doing the trail, together with everybody else. Of course, everybody dispersed and let the bear pass. But that's the only time I've seen a bear in real life.
Do you ever think about what they think about? Like, what's on a bear's mind?
That's an interesting question. I haven't given it a thought, to be honest.
Have you ever seen a UFO? If so, can you describe your encounter?
I think I may have. I didn't see it in person, but my camera captured something very interesting at the Marfa Lights out in the Chihuahuan Desert in Texas. But besides that, I haven't really seen anything that jumped out at me that was too extraordinary. I'm going back to Nevada next winter, so it might happen.
Yeah, you're right. You never know. Okay, do you think it's possible that what we think are aliens are not actually from outer space, and maybe instead they're a separate species, perhaps some dinosaurs like the velociraptor that survived the big comet crash and evolved into an advanced technological civilization that predates the ancient Egyptians and the Romans?
It is possible. It is not out of the realm of possibilities. I mean, we've all heard of the Atlantis and many other possible civilizations that are coexisting with us. So, it's something interesting to speculate and think about, and I want to believe.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting about that particular theory is that it would help out with a lot of the problems with physics, because, as you know, it's difficult to go at the speed of light, much less past the speed of light. So, and then there's the reason why would they be here and stuff like that. So basically, that it would be more of a plausible theory that they would be from Earth and not outer space because of those reasons.
That makes sense, and there are many unexplained phenomena here on Earth that could be explained by a race like that, coexisting with us.
Yeah, especially the way that they're depicted. The aliens. It looks to me, at least, like they could be some sort of evolved, reptile, because they have the black eyes and the slits for a nose, and They walk upright with 3 fingers, and they're either green or gray.
Yeah.
I mean, that really looks like reptile stuff. So yeah, that's very, very possible, and creepy.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's good. Yeah.
Okay. Why are mountains more attractive to you than forests?
Well, I've lived all my life in Florida, so we don't have any mountains down here. So whenever I see mountains, it's kind of like my happy place. Mountains and desert. Forest, I feel uneasy inside a forest sometimes because I cannot see, into the distance. I don't know what's happening a few feet away from me. So that's the one thing that makes me uneasy about forest. And even though I do understand that they are actually very healthy for us to be in the proximity of large trees and plants and all that, from many aspects, psychological and physical health. I understand that it's a positive thing for us.
Yep, I've heard that too. It's understandable. If you can't see everything that's around you, it can make you feel a little paranoid a little,
Yeah,
especially if it's
yeah.
dark.
It could be a matter of not. It could be a matter of not being used to it. But that's the way I feel when I'm in one of those dense forests, like in the Pacific Northwest, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What is it about waterfalls that you enjoy?
Oh, they're beautiful, and there's something about the water coming down. It's refreshing. I mean, water is a symbol of life, and I've heard that the waterfall it creates certain isotopes in the atmosphere. It ionizes the atmosphere around it, and it creates that pleasant feeling. But I just like the way they look. Again, I live in Florida. We don't have too many waterfalls down here, so you tend to be more amazed and inspired by what you don't see often.
Okay. Do you consider yourself a tourist or observer?
Server, I
Yeah,
want to say.
more of an observer. Okay. So, in what
Yeah,
way? Like, just you like to observe the scenery and.
I like to observe the scenery. I like to observe the people too, and I mean, I'll do it too, but I'm not as fond of like tourist attractions like uh, like Disney World or things like that. I'd like to see more like how the more nature and see how people live their lives in different parts of the world. I'd like to enjoy the food, the local food.
Oh yes. Okay. Do you soak your feet in Epsom salt after a long hike?
I don't, no.
You don't. You don't ever have any trouble with your dogs barking, basically. Because I know
Yeah,
you do a lot of traipsing around, dude.
yeah, no. I just take a long break after a long hike, and take a long shower maybe if I have the vehicle.
All right. And now, here's the nasty questions. They're not that nasty, really, but yes. Okay. Tell us your most.
Okay.
Tell us your most interesting flat tire story.
Interesting flat tire story. I used to get a lot of flat tires. It's probably I have to think about this one.
Go ahead.
Mm, well, the last time I had a flat tire, and this was well, the most interesting one was probably in the middle of nowhere, Route 66, and at the time I didn't know that I had the knowledge that I have nowadays. But it was on the side of the road and there was no shoulder, so I was practically in the middle of the road, and only in the whole time that I was changing the tire and doing all that, only one person passed us and they offered help and we said we were okay. But that would be the most interesting in the sense that we were in the middle of a road and there was no one around.
Oh, wow. That's a hard one. Have you ever had any accidents? You crashing into someone or them crashing into you?
Not lately, especially not during travels. I had more accidents when I was a younger man in Miami than I ever have. I haven't, knock on wood, I haven't had an accident in probably, I want to say almost 20 years.
Wow, that's a
And
record.
with only over, almost probably 200,000 miles that I've put on the road in the past 6 years or 7 years. I haven't really had an accident. I've had mishaps like that one time that I got stuck in Route 66 and I couldn't make a U-turn. Eventually, I did, but it took like 20 cuts trying to make a U-turn with a trailer in tow. Things like that have happened, but not an accident with another vehicle.
Oh, wow,
I
that's
did hit a rock. I hit a rock at the Valley of Fire in Nevada, but that was just me because I wasn't paying attention and I and I drove into a rock. But that was it.
okay. Were you ever victimized by vandalism or theft when traveling with your RV?
Not really. The only time I was a victim of theft was in my driveway in Miami. Someone broke into the truck and stole my GPS system. But
Oh,
other than that, I've had some sketchy moments. Like this one time in Horizon City in Texas, a bunch of teenagers started jumping on the rear bumper of the trailer, and I came out and scared them away. But it was very scary at the moment for me.
Mm.
But nothing serious like that on the road.
All right. Well, that's good to hear. Do you keep a gun in your RV for protection? You know, in case something does like really seriously happen.
I prefer not to say.
Okay, no problem. Can you tell us a story about the scariest thing that ever happened on the road for all the Halloweeners who might be out there?
Like serious thing that happened on the road?
Yeah, like scariest, you know, like something where you really just, your heart was throbbing and you just, you know, you weren't sure if you're going to make it out. And, you know, I mean, like the scariest thing that ever happened to you on the road.
Well, there was this thing that happened, and I was staying at this, I forget the exact name of the place. It was an overnight location next to a river somewhere in Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
And it was there were a couple of people there, and everybody left. And I was there alone, and I decided to go someplace else. I felt uneasy. It was heavy fog, and I left, and as I'm going through this, it was rural, but it was like a neighborhood. There's this dog chasing me, barking in this heavy fog, and for some reason that felt creepy. I'm not gonna say it's creepy, but scary. I mean, not scary, but creepy at the time.
Right, right.
It was, and this dog came out of nowhere, and he was barking and chasing me, and I'm like, you know, it was.
Was it a big dog?
Yeah, it must have been like a. Must have been like a big German Shepherd or something like that. Yeah.
Oh.
The situation. It was a dark and foggy night, and all of a sudden I heard it next to me. It really scared me at the time.
Right. Well, you don't want to get chased down by the Hen of the Baskervilles, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. By the way, why doesn't Cuba celebrate Halloween? Because I heard they don't celebrate it in Cuba.
It's. I guess it's a cultural thing. I guess not every country celebrates Halloween, but no, it's not a thing. It's not a. It's not something people celebrate. Like in Mexico, they have Dia de los Muertos and that kind of thing, but in Cuba they don't. No? And I have no idea why.
Okay. All right. A few drone questions. What are some of the hazards you encounter while flying the drone?
Hazards. Where high wind can be one of those, and sometimes there is very little wind at the ground level, but once you go up to 400 feet, there's high wind up there. Mm-hmm. So that's one of those. Sometimes birds like to fly around the drone, and you know, like they're very curious about that. Mm-hmm. But my biggest concern is always flying in a way that it's, first of all, you know, legal. I have an app that tells me if I'm near an airport or if I'm near a place where I'm not supposed to fly. And I'm only concerned with flying over water. I fly over water a lot because it's the most legal way to fly. No one beneath you. But that's how I lost my first drone. You know, I lost the radio signal, and the drone just fell into the water.
Oh my goodness. What do you think about the Mars Ingenuity helicopter drone that was brought aboard the Mars Perseverance rover?
I think that's super cool that they are able to do all these kinds of things in a place so far away. You know, where even the radio signal takes several minutes to reach them. Mm-hmm. So I've always been fascinated since the original. Wasn't the Spirit rover the one that they did in the late '90s? I was being fascinated by seeing the pictures that come back from all these machines they're putting up there.
Oh yeah, they keep saying they're going to send more pictures. I'm still waiting to see the more pictures from the drone.
Yeah, I haven't seen much from the drone, and actually it's kind of interesting that it's able to fly in the much thinner atmosphere in Mars. You know.
Mm-hmm. I know. That's a really good.
I would think that you'd use a balloon or something that would be more efficient in that sense.
Yeah. Yeah, that's you're probably got something there. Yeah, I know. I think they're just trying to maybe show off a little bit and try to say, oh, well, we can send a drone to any planet, and and it works. See?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Here's a handful of quasi-political questions. Did you ever get any Easy Rider flashbacks while you were traveling through Louisiana and Georgia?
The first time I did that, I had a certain apprehension, but the reality is at least in current times, in the present, it's different than the movie.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that's good to hear. I know that was different times. They had different attitudes and everything. That, in some ways, it's true. Okay. What really happened when you visited Durango, Colorado at your number one least favorite KOA campground?
Well, of course, it all began with this draconian internet rule that they had, that they didn't allow me to use my own internet, my own hotspot, and I requested, to leave early to get my money back, and it all the whole conversation devolved into a little bit of an argument, and the gentleman got very upset, and he told me if I didn't want it to leave, and his son also got involved, and it's something that it's better left in the past.
Okay.
I think I've said everything I had to say about that confrontation.
Okay, I hear you. No problem. Yeah, I wouldn't want to get you, into the old vaudeville act, where the guy keeps mentioning Niagara Falls and the guy goes ballistic because he hears the word. I don't know if you're familiar with that act, but it's like step by step, inch by inch.
No, I'm not. I'm not familiar with that one. No.
Okay, all right. Well, it's the Niagara Falls sketch with it's back in the 1930s. Probably it comes from even before that, but it's basically just a sketch where two guys meet and the other guy tells him a story about how he was chasing a guy who was going out with his wife and found that he found him in Niagara Falls finally, and basically if the guy says Niagara Falls, it makes him remember everything, and it comes back and he has a flashback and goes step by step, inch by inch. And then he turns and he starts strangling him, And it's and then he snaps at him and says, "Are you okay?" So the guy can't mention that word, otherwise he goes ballistic. Okay, so that's an old one. Okay, so glad you don't have that. All right. Okay, moving on. You have visited many capitals. What did you think of the Capitol riot in Washington, D.C.?
It was an unfortunate moment in our history, and it shouldn't have happened.
Yep, no, I agree there. Absolutely. All right. What do you think? What do you think of the two presidents, Trump and Biden? And do you think their conflict has caused a rift with Americans, or will the country be coming together?
There's certainly a rift, and I've noticed it in different places that I've visited. But I prefer not to comment on politics, to be honest about it.
Okay, no problem.
It's not my place. No.
No problem at all. All right. Do you think the rising population of tourism is spoiling the natural beauty of the countryside?
I want to say yes. Some of the more popular national parks have become like Disney World in that sense, and I don't have an answer. I don't know what the solution is for. I mean, those places are worth visiting, and I think everybody should be able to visit them. But so some of them are overrun with tourists, and I don't think it's damaging the nature as much per se, but it does diminish your enjoyment of some of those places.
Oh yeah, especially if you're trying to take some shots of just the scenery, and the people are in the way, and they leave their garbage everywhere too, right?
The garbage is a problem. The national parks are not so bad with garbage, but it's something that I don't know why people do it, but some people do, and it's unfortunate.
Yeah. All right. Well, hopefully we'll come up with a solution of that sometime in the future. Okay. How has the caramba impacted your traveling?
Well, it certainly impacted my travels. It impacted everybody during the past year, right? But what I did, and it worked out for me last summer particularly, was try to avoid big cities, try to avoid crowded places, and I just zigzagged my way around the country looking for beauty and nature, and places where I could hike without too many people around. That's how I discovered the Ozarks in Missouri. That's and the most crowded place that I visited was probably Glacier National Park. And even there, if you're on a hike, we're all apart in that sense.
Yeah,
But it was
go ahead.
certainly a challenge to plan my route. Uh, around big cities and big,
Okay.
or places where perhaps everything was closed. So some states they had the hard lockdowns for a long time, and it's no fun to go to a place if everything is closed. So, for both reasons, for my own safety and my own enjoyment, I decided to take that route.
Yeah, I noticed that some places that you visited, particularly, I think it was one of the water, like I forget what it was like a water slide waterfall outdoor, one of the national parks, I think, and basically
Hmm.
there were some people wearing, the masks, and the other people were not. But it was
Hmm.
crazy because it's like they're both sitting, they're like practically next to each other, and they're doing two different things. It's like
Yeah.
crazy. Okay.
Yeah, there was a slide rock, and that was in North Carolina,
Yes, that's it.
and and masks were required unless you were in line to get into the slide. So that didn't make much sense, but they.
Exactly. All right. Okay, Dan, speaking of masks, do you think the Karumba masks resemble muzzles such as they use for dogs?
uh, I don't know, not really, no.
Okay. All right. Moving right along. A philosophical question for you. Beatle George Harrison wrote in his song The Inner Light, quote, "The farther one travels, the less one knows," unquote. How would you interpret that, and do you agree with that point of view?
If you take it literally, no.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess the farther you travel, the more you realize how little you really know. Because
Mm.
or how little you really knew. Travel really opens up your mind and makes you see things differently. And I'm not all that familiar with that song, but I doubt that he meant it literally.
Yeah, well, it's probably more, it's more philosophical, but yeah, I think you hit on what he was probably trying to hit on there, and yeah,
Hmm.
the idea that the less you know about certain other things, if you travel more, but also it's good to stay in one place sometimes too. Okay, can you tell us what is your favorite traveling Robert story?
My favorite traveling rubber story. You mean like? Uh, oh, my favorite story. If you talk about like travel experience and stories, my first cross country road trip. That to me that was a great experience, and words cannot describe what you feel. Once you reach the Pacific Ocean coming from Florida. It's that is my favorite trip. Let's just put it that way.
What was the most favorite part of the trip for you?
The gradual change in scenery once you start reaching West Texas, and all of a sudden you realize, gosh, I'm in the desert, and I didn't notice how I got here. Because gradually, trees become smaller and sparser, and you don't really realize once you get past Texas Hill Country, and it's very gradual. It's a very gradual change of scenery.
Okay, a few more questions. In what ways does Cuban Spanish language differ from other Spanish speaking countries?
In the same way, our English language differs from Australia or South Africa. Most words are the same, and most pronunciations are similar. So certain words change, and the accent is different.
Okay, all right. How do you say "I am a pelican" in Cuban?
Soy un pelícano.
All right. How do you say bison in Cuban?
Bisonte.
Oh, okay. It's a different word. That's interesting. Okay. What is your ultimate goal?
My ultimate goal. Um, to in life, yeah, to be able to continue doing what I'm doing as long as I am healthy enough to do it. I'm basically, I believe this is my goal. What I'm living right now. This is the dream, and be able to see as many places in the United States and the world as possible.
All right, fantastic. Will there come a time when you will not travel anymore and just stay home?
If I cannot move or walk, or but as I said, as long as I'm healthy enough to do it, I might slow down, but I don't think I'll ever, stay at the same place for a long time, for years or even months. So, yeah.
Okay, well, those are all the interview questions. Thanks for a great interview. You've been providing an important service with your YouTube programs for people who may not get the chance to go exploring in an RV. You share beautiful images, especially the drone flights, a bit of comedy, lots of music, along with some educational information. So may I say, keep up the excellent work and stay free in your RV, Robert.
Thank you, Leila. I appreciate that.
Okay, and I also would like to send, I know you got a P.O. box, so I'd like to send you a free Cosmiks sticker, because I'm doing journalism as sort of an on the side thing, because I'm actually in a band called the Cosmiks.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Yep, so I'll send you a free sticker, and it's been a pleasure, and, we watch your show all the time.
Okay, well, thank you.
I look forward to new episodes and new adventures.
Yeah, so do I. I'm already pumped for this summer, so look out for that for sure.
Thank you so much, Robert, and you have a good evening.
No, you too. Thank you, Lila. Bye.
All right, thank you. Bye-bye.
Break it down. Riding in my RV, whatever I want to be. Oh, 'cause I'm free in my RV, yeah, riding in my RV, whenever I want to be, 'cause I'm free in my RV, yeah, riding, I'm riding in my RV, wherever I want to be, yeah, 'cause I'm free in my RV.
we're back. Tune in next week. That's 2 weeks from now, folks, for the part 2 interview with Traveling Robert. And remember, as Mr. Hessler says,
Keep looking up
on West Appenin with the Cosmiks.